I'm going to start with something that you might not be expecting. I woke up, namawe kombe yale lile tombe. I woke up, namawe kombe yale lile. I woke up, namawe kombe yale lile kombe. I woke up, namawe kombe yale lile. I woke up, namawe, if you want to do it, come we do it. Stand up with me. I woke up, namawe kombe yale lile. I woke up, namawe kombe yale lile kombe. I woke up, namawe kombe yale lile. I woke up, namawe kombe yale lile kombe. I woke up, namawe kombe yale lile. Okay, somebody's coming in. This is a Scottish evening, but we're in Africa right now, okay? Because the Scots got themselves to Africa, I can tell you. So, it's okay, thank you. Right, so we're in Africa. And I just want to tell you the story. The language that you're chanting in is Mende. Mende. And this is a story, a really extraordinary, beautiful story about song streams, which is what we're going to be looking at tonight. So, in the deep south of America, of the USA, welcome, welcome. We've just been doing an African dance, but we... So, in the rice-growing region of America, in Georgia, a musicologist about 40 to 50 years ago was studying the very last vestiges of the sounds of Africa in the language. And he heard this chant. And it was the longest sequence, but he didn't know what it was, no idea what it was. And nobody had any idea what it was, but he took it home and he sang it at home because he liked it with his wife. And he taught it. We didn't know what it was. And then about 10 years later, a young student in the department who came from Sierra Leone recognized one word in the chant, Kembe. And Kembe is the word for grave. Now, we're going to do eternal threads tonight, so this is our movement into this. But what then happened was that musicologists went to Sierra Leone because Sierra Leone was a rice-growing region and lots of slaves were taken from Sierra Leone to work in South Georgia because it was also a rice-growing region. And there was a higher premium on those slaves than others. And these musicologists went back to Sierra Leone and they went round village after village after village after village playing this chant in their study area. Nothing. And then just before they went home, one woman said, I'll just go outside the study area. So she went outside the study area. And an old woman in the village recognized this. And the interesting thing is that the original woman was called Amelia Dawley. This is the woman in the US. And her grandmother or her mother, one of the two, had said to her, you keep this, it's precious. As had the African grandmother to her daughter. So those two women held the chant. So what then happened was that the woman from the US was welcomed by the head of state of Sierra Leone because the chant had continued. And it was a proverb in Mende. This was one of the chants that they used to bury their dead. And it had survived through generations. Well, this is the 1750s, 60s we're talking, till 250 years later, probably. And the reason I'm telling you this is because there's a Mende proverb which says, you can speak another language, you can live in another culture, but to cry over your dead, you always go back to your mother tongue, the language you cry in. So tonight we're going to be talking about the language we cry in. Okay? Because it's profound. Memory is power. I'll read this again. You can speak another language, you can live in another culture, but to cry over your dead, you always go back to your mother tongue, the language you cry in. Okay. So I'm going to move now to the UK. We're going to be singing tonight. But I'm going to move back now to a poem, which I've had this poem for a very long time. The last time I spoke, last week I was talking about some of my life working with human beings who'd been involved in great suffering. And I used to read this poem to anything I did. I'd take it with me and I'd read it, because I was working with people who were trying to find answers, who were trying to understand what had happened to children. And the prevailing need was to extract information. And, what's happened, that kind of, I've got to do this. And I was sent this by a woman who was a wheelchair user. I never met her, but she would send me the stories of what had been happening to her and what was still happening to her. And she wouldn't let me do anything about that. So that was her choice. And she was a grown person, so I didn't have any option really, but to just respect it. And she sent me this poem. She would send me poems, and then she would tell me bits more of the fragments of her story, her internal story. And this is a little poem called Picking the Scab. And I used to use this every time I taught. Do you think you can find the truth picking away at the scab, lifting the crust with your nails' persistent worrying? Do you think the hidden one will open because you pierced its defense? And the last line was, when you enter, open the door with the gentlest of all touching. The gentlest of all touching. And as time went on in my life, I began to understand that the gentlest of all touching is sound and vibration and song. So you can touch and hold experience with sound, with songs that you can't do with anything else. They're better than words because you don't have to use words. You can use sound, and there's all sorts of ways that you can use sound to hold human experience. And tonight, I'm going to take you into the passing of both my parents and the songs that went with those experiences and held them. The first, just to go into those experiences, and we're going to sing the songs associated with them. Because I was very blessed as a human being to be brought in with sound. I had sound songs all the way through my life. And in an extraordinary serendipitous way, sound music carried both my parents out. And it couldn't have been a more extraordinary set of happenings, really. And I'm going to share both their songs with you. Because it was one of the hugest privileges of my life, but it was such an internal process for me. And I'll try and share some of that internal process because it's part of the grist of human experience. But before I do that, I'm going to sing you a song. We'll sing songs together too, but I'm going to sing you this song because it's called The Land of the Leo. And the reason I'm singing you this song is because it was a tiny part of my last chapter with my father. The Land of the Leal was written by Lady Nairn. And I'll translate it. I don't know how long it dates. I should know, probably 1800s, Lady Nairn. I can't mind. And the Land of the Leal means, in Scots, it means the land of, means heaven really, but it's the land of the everlasting, the Land of the Leal. And the words are, I'm wearing awa, John, like snaw wreaths in snow, John, I'm wearing awa to the Land of the Leal. There's nae sorrow there, John, there's neither call nor care, John, the day is aye fair in the Land of the Leal. To me ye hae been true, John, your task is ended now, John. For near caith's my view, for near caith's my view o' the Land of the Leal. So near caith means newly revealed. Our bonny Bernie's there, John, she was baith good and fair, John, and oh, we grudged her sair to the Land of the Leal. So to me you've been really true, John, true man. Your task is ended now, John. For near caith's my view, for I can see the view, it's being revealed, the Land of the Leal is being revealed to me. Our bonny child is there, John, she was both good and fair, John, and oh, we grudged her to the Land of the Leal, grudged her sair. We really sorely grudged her to go there. But dry that tear for ye, John, grieve na for her and me, John. Frae sin and sorrow free is the Land of the Leal. No fare ye weel, my ain John, this world's cares are vain, John. We'll meet and I be fain in the Land of the Leal. So, but dry that tearful eye, John, grieve not for her and me, John, for sin and sorrow free is the Land of the Leal. So fare ye weel, my own John. This world's cares are vain, John. We'll meet and always be fain means well pleased, happy in the Land of the Leal. So the reason that I'm putting this song in is because it's part of the chapter of my father's passing, because he knows that, he knew that song. And when I sang him, well, I'll tell you the story, but I'm going to sing it because it's a beautiful song. I'm wearing awa, John, like snow wreaths in snow, John. I'm wearing awa to the Land o' the Leal. There's nae sorrow there, John, there's neither cold nor care, John. The day is aye fair and the Land o' the Leal. To me ye hae been true, John, your task is ended now, John. For near caith's my view o' the Land o' the Leal. Our bonny Bernie's there, John, she was both good and fair, John, and oh, we grudged her sair to the Land o' the Leal. But dry that tear for ye, John, grieve na for her and me, John, frae sin and sorrow free as the Land o' the Leal. No fare ye were, my ain John, this world's cares are vain, John. We'll meet and I be fain in the Land o' the Leal. I'm wearing and join me if you want. I'm wearing awa, John, like snow wreaths in snow, John. I'm wearing awa to the land of the leal. There's nae sorrow there, John. There's neither cold nor care, John. The day is aye fair in the land of the leal. I'm wearing awa, John, like snow wreaths in snow, John. I'm wearing awa to the land o' the leal. There's nae sorrow there, John. There's neither cold nor care, John. The day is aye fair in the land o' the leal. Again, I'm wearing awa, John, like snow wreaths in snow, John. I'm wearing awa to the land o' the leal. There's nae sorrow there, John. There's neither cold nor care, John. The day is aye fair in the land o' the leal. I'm wearing awa, John, like snow wreaths in snow, John. I'm wearing awa to the land o' the leal. The land of the leal. So, I'm going to introduce you now to my father. Oh, God, my father was a dancer. And I'll show you, this is typical of my father. That's him. Look at this spirit. I'm going to send you, this is a magazine called Dance On. Dance On, it's called. I'll send it round. And my father's this one here, look at his eyes, is just totally, completely him dancing. He's a dancer, my dad. And those who were here at the second session, or the second it was, I think, or the first, I can't mind. That's my granddad's fiddle. And my granddad was a fiddler, and he took that fiddle through the First World War, and he took it home again. It was in Gallipoli, it was in France, it was in, he was the whole of the war, he was away with that. And he brought it back in one piece, and he was in one piece. He was a Lovett Scout, and that regiment were snipers, and they were reconnaissance, so they weren't always getting what was dished out to other people. They were able to avoid and do other things. I think that's how he survived, because the whole of the war he survived. He was away for the whole of it. And when he came home, he got on his bike. His party piece, I remember this, was the Smiths, a gallant fireman. Da diddle diddly I yiddle diddle diddly idle die diddle diddle die yiddle diddle diddle die. So this is my granddad, and he would call the dances around Kellis, all the way around here probably. I don't know if he was ever here, but he was always on his bike going out doing the dances. He'd call the dances, and he was a fiddler. So my father, and there's a story which I think I tell in session 2, you'll get it on YouTube, of my dad wrote about his early life, and he would sit in the handlebars of the bike, and they would go into the halls, and there's a story about my dad. He wrote it himself, and you'll see that. I read it out in session 2. Anyway, my father was besotted with dance, and he was besotted with singing, but not singing as such. He was a whistler. So you would hear him on his bike coming down the road, and you knew it was Dad because you could hear him from the end of the road. Everybody knew my father singing, not singing, whistling. So my mother wrote a poem about, this is my father's article, which I won't go into tonight because I've already done that for those of you who are here, but you'll get it on YouTube. But this one, my mother wrote a poem about my father. right? And this is a typical spirit of my father. He was just... I'll tell you this. I'll tell you more about my relationship with my father, because it wasn't easy. I didn't have an easy relationship with my father. But this is my mother's writing about my father, which is the country dancer. So this is how my father would operate in his dancing and his whistling. Our Jim's a country dancer, and he swears that it's the answer for anybody feeling maybe somewhere of the wear. To country dancing folk, 2 or 3 bars for drum and cook, puts lilting life into their queets and gars them tack the fleer. So that's in Doric she's writing, so I'll translate that. Our Jim is a country dancer, and he swears that is the answer for anybody feeling maybe somewhat worse for wear. To country dancing people, 2 or 3 bars from Drummond Cook, who's one of the dance band people, leaders, puts lilting life, puts spirited life, lilting means moving life, into their ankles and makes them take the floor. They fairly go their dinging, they're a real bunch of heed bangers, but it keeps them out a langer and the rest of us get some peace. So no, it's just dads out dancing, thank God, is the kind of thing, you know. Anyway, at the day, they fairly go their dinger. They fairly go bananas at this. And they're a real bunch of head bangers, but it keeps them out of mischief, and the rest of us get some peace. James is never in the dumps, as in kilt and hose and pumps, with his fight sark are resplendent, he gets rigged for the dance. Be it Dufton, Elgin, Forest, be it Huntley, Bucky, Granton, or nearer hand Balmedy with Alistair Hunter's band. So James is never in the dumps, as in kilt and hose and pumps, with his white shirt all resplendent, he gets dressed up for the dance. Be it Dufton, Elgin, Forest, be it Huntley, Bucky, Grantown, or nearer hand Balmedy, which is near Aberdeen where they used to live, with Alistair Hunter's band. Now my father collected tunes. These bands wrote tunes to my father. There was 4 tunes. There's 4 dance tunes to my father that people danced to, because he was besotted with dance and he was very well known in the dance world. No distance will deter him for a band that's worth the hearing. Jim Dawson, Ian Anderson, or Dunblaine's Jim MacLeod, he dances down in Stirling till his tays are fairly dirling, never daches for his Berlin for a whole week at a time. Right, so no distance will deter him from a band that's worth being heard. Jim Dawson, Ian Anderson, or Dunblaine's Jim MacLeod. He dances down in Stirling till his toes are fairly throbbing. He never tires from his barreling, which is going round, you know, that kind of thing. Barrel to barrel is, you know, you go round with your partner for a whole week at a time. If he has to bide at home, then the pattern's aye the same. On cassette, we've country dance bands frae Shan to Wallachmore. It's true, the whole bloody house was dirling with this stuff all the time. You know, you couldn't get out of it. You had to go and get quiet because my dad had got his music on, and you were not to interrupt it. Oh God, if he has to stay at home, then the pattern's always the same. On cassette, we have country dance bands from Jimmy Shand to Wallachmore. They're different dance bands. In his mind, he's chasing wild geese, which is the name of a tune. Shifting bobbins, another name of a tune, or the clutha, another name of a tune. Bringing bees o' Maggie Knocheter to the blooms of Bon Accord. These are all dance tunes. When we, capital we, wish he would be stepping on some flea or maybe at Appin, which is far enough away, or Plockton or Strathpeffer or a Wadoon in Dumfries, for he fairly goes his dinger. He's a country dance he'd banger, but it keeps him out a langer and the rest us get some peace. So basically, when we wish he would be stepping on some floor, maybe in Appin, which is the other side of the country, See my mother's, yeah, you know, you can see that, can't you? There's a wee bit of edge there. Because she had to iron the shirts, or plocked in our Strathpeffer, or away down in Dumfries. He was all over the country dancing. For he fairly goes his dinger, he's a country dance he'd banger, but it keeps him out a langer and the rest of us get some peace. So you get all of that. That's the story. So there he is, and he's dancing. And so he had an 80th, they did a surprise 90th birthday party for him at Dufton with 200 dancers in Dufton. Unbelievable. My father was just spirited man. But I didn't have an easy relationship with my father. I just always wanted his positive affirmation, and I never really got it. As a girl. The boys, I had two brothers, but it was always... And for a long time in my 20s and 30s, I didn't go home because I didn't want any crap. I just didn't. And I said to my mum, I'm just, you know, so I'd go and stay with my lovely Auntie Lulu up the road, and I'd go home, but I wouldn't spend much time with my father. And the conversations, so I was... I remember this. I was working in all over the world doing speeches and conferences and trauma. And I'd ring home sometimes, and I'd hope to get my mother, because I wanted to tell her something really, but I remember the conversations like, I'd ring up and my father would pick up the phone. "Where are you?" I'd say, "I'm in Kuala Lumpur." "Kuala Lumpur? What are you doing in Kuala Lumpur? For God's sake." This was how it would go, you know. And I'd say, "Well, Dad, I'm at an international conference." And I remember the day of this. I went to an international conference. I was lecturing at the conference, and it was the day that was the 6 months before South Africa was apartheid left South Africa, and the South African delegation were cheered into the room, black, white, mixed delegation, and we sang Nkosi Sikeleli Afrika. We sang them in, you know, and it was uplifting. And then I was in the corridor. Oh my God, I can't forget this. And these people kept coming. They all came up and crowded around me, and I thought, what's going on? And I had actually made a BBC documentary on an event. I'll put a bit of that on YouTube, but it was a BBC documentary, and it was teaching communication skills with kids and teach. You know, it was a training documentary, and it was to show the public what was really happening. And this had been smuggled into South Africa, this thing, and so they knew my face. I didn't know any of them, and I was so honoured, really, and I wanted to go home and to ring home and tell my mother. And I got my father. I thought, oh God, what am I going to tell him? Why should I, you know? And so we had that edgy relationship all the time. Now my father passed 219, November 219, not that long ago. And my mother had passed some years before. And by this time I had been getting into learning and deepening my understanding of grief music and our ancient keening traditions. And I was starting to find beautiful, beautiful tunes. And I was starting to write words to these ancient tunes. And I was starting to do that kind of thing. And I wrote, there was a beautiful, beautiful pipe tune called His Father's Lament for Donald Ban Mackenzie. And John Ban Mackenzie was a man, a very good-looking, handsome man. And he was 1830s, 40s time. I think he died in 1860s. And he had a son. And the son died of smallpox when he was only 30. And John Ban Mackenzie had He was a pipe maker. He had trained his son to be a piper. It was a beautiful, beautiful lament that he wrote for his son because he had outlived his son. And so I listened to this tune, and I took the tune and I wrote words to it. And I'll sing you the words, and then we can. It's a fairly easy tune to learn, so we can sing it. And the words are, the auld wife's greeting by your bed, candle dims abeen your head, the banshee wails, your time is near, nae hour long you'll linger here. Tune up the pipes, they weep for ye, and play the pibroch wild and free. Ben Wyvis crags, nae mair you'll see, the land of Leal is waiting ye. It's nae lang syne you were on my knee. The cantrach tunes I sang to ye. The pipe, the horn I carved for ye. Deep in my heart you'll bide with me. Tune up the pipes, they weep for ye. And play the pibroch wild and free. Ben Wyvis crags, nae mair you'll see. He was from Strathpeffer. The land of Leal is waiting ye. The blossoms gain from off the geen, and in the strath the barley's deen. The corryshellas gurgling clear, and winter's chills will soon be here. Tune up the pipes, they weep for ye, and play the pibroch wild and free. Ben Wyvis crags, nae mair you'll see. The land of Leal is waiting ye. So if we go back to the beginning, I'll translate the chorus. Tune up the pipes, they weep for ye, and play the pibroch wild and free. Ben Wyvis is up beside Strathpeffer crags, no more you'll see. The land of Leal is waiting ye. The old wife's greeting by your bed, candle dims above your head. The banshee wails. The banshee is the harbinger of death. The banshee wails. Your time is near. You won't be here much longer. You're not going to linger here much longer. Tune up the pipes, they weep for me. Weep for ye, and play the pibroch wild and free. Ben Wyvis crags, nae mair you'll see. The land of Leal is waiting ye. It's not long ago that you were on my knee. The chanter horn I carved for ye. The cantarach is the chant that was a transmission tool of the pipes. So in the 1600s, when the zenith of the piping schools were happening, they weren't teaching through notes because they didn't have them. They chanted. So the pipers learnt the chant, the cantarach. In the Gaelic, it's the word for the chant. So, the cantarach tune I sang with ye. Deep in my heart, you'll bide with me. Deep in my heart, you'll stay with me. The blossom's gone from off the geen. The geen is the cherry, wild cherry. And in the strath, the barley is gone. In the strath is the valley and the plain. The barley is gone. The corryshellas is a whirlpool and got the waterfall up near there. Corryshellas gurgling clear, and winter's chill will soon be here. Tune up the pipes and they weep for me. So that's the song. And we can learn the song because I had it in my pocket, my song, on the fairly momentous weekend in my life when my father passed. So I'll sing it to you, and then we can sing the chorus, because the chorus is quite easy. The auld wife's greeting by your bed, candle dims abeen your head. The banshee wails, your time is near, nae hour long you'll linger here. Tune up the pipes, they weep free, and play the pibroch wild and free. Ben Wevis crags nae mair you'll see, the land o' you is waiting thee. It's nae lang syne you were on my knee, the chanter horn I carved for ye, the canterach tunes I sang wee. Deep in my heart you'll bide with me. Tune up the pipes, they weep for ye, and play the pibroch wild and free. Ben Wevis crags nae mair you'll see, the land o' you is waiting thee. The blossoms gleam from off the green, and in the strath the barley's deen, the corrie shellachs gargling clear, and winter's chill will soon be here. Tune up the pipes, they weep for ye, and play the pibroch wild and free. Ben Wevis crags nae mair you'll see, the land o' you is waiting thee. So there was a day in my life when I was going down to near Oxford, and my brother and I were both going. I have two brothers, and my father was 93, and he'd been invited to go too, because on Armistice Day there was a commemoration of the dead, as there always is in November, and we'd been invited to this gathering of people because my father's brother his only brother had been killed in a bomber. During the Second World War, my father was on Spitfires in the RAF, because they were both from this area. So he was on Spitfires, and my other brother was on his other brother was on Wellington bombers. And they last met at Euston Station, and that was the last time they saw each other, because my uncle was killed. I never knew him. He was older than my father, and he was the apple of everybody's eye. And my grandfather went down to Bicester to bury his son, but my grandmother only had one travel warrant in those days, so only one could go. So my grandmother never got over it, ever got over any of it, and she wept every day. And it was a shadow in our family, you know, and my father had to bear that. And part of his, I don't know, things that landed on me were to do with his relationship with his mother, because that's how intergenerational trauma works. But I didn't really fully understand it at the time, nor was I interested really when I was a young woman. I just, get off my back, Dad, you know, leave me alone. And, you know, can you just not understand me a bit? You know, that's how you think when you're in your 20s. And I used to say to my mother in my adolescence, why did you marry him, Dad, Mum? What were you... My mother would just say, she'd always say, just leave Dad to me. I'd say, okay. In other words, don't you get so feisty, because I was a feisty creature. Anyway, I'm a bit less feisty now, but I was quite feisty. Anyway, my father had a handful, because I wasn't taking it. You know, I'm not taking this. Anyway, going back to all of this, my brother and I, my younger brother and I, are going down to this gathering in Oxford to to be part of the commemoration of this, and I've been invited to speak. There's only 5 people in this aeroplane, and my uncle was one of them, and there were 4 other people, and all the rest of them weren't Scottish. This was only a Scottish guy, and I go down there, and we were invited because they had found the place where this bomber had crashed, and they were commemorating it, and there was going to be people from the American, military and the British military, and we were invited, and I thought, it's the least we can do is to go down and honour this situation. So I went to see my father, and my father, nothing to do with that. He wasn't having anything. It was too much grief, basically, my father. He just wasn't having anything to do with that. And so I'm sitting, and what are you going to do when you're getting down there? I said, well, probably, Dad, I'm not going to speak. I'm just going to sing. Oh, aye. I said, will I sing you a song? What I'm thinking of singing. Will I sing you? Aye. So whenever I sang to my father, there was peace. He loved music. And I knew that singing, that was our connection. Music was our connection. And the worst of times, music. So I sat, my dad sits down, and I sing my song. Oh, that's awful, Bonnie. Sing it again. So I sing it again. Tune up, and he's going, tune up the pipes. And he's singing with me. And then he's saying, and for some reason, I've no idea why, but I video this. My brother videos it. I've never videoed my father in my life, but he's videoing this. Tune up the pipe, tune up. Oh, the land o' Leal, the land o' Leal. Oh, and then, darling, you're the best. I'm so proud of my children. I'm that. Oh, you Kenneth, I love you. I waited my whole life. Yeah, I did. Wait the whole life for that. And I'm standing there like, oh, Dad, and everything else melts away then. Any resentments, any fears, And I gave him a big hug. He said, now you look after your brother. Oh, yeah, I will. I've always looked after my younger brother because he's got a disability, and he's, but he's coming with me. We were both going. And you look after the land o' Leal. Oh, I've just been awful proud of my children, and I love you, my children. I'm nearly falling on the floor. So I give him a huge hug, and I say cheerio, and I go down thinking, my God, what just happened? Now, I had got him some thistles because it was some beautiful thistles that he could have when we were going down, because I knew there'd be a lot of flowers in this reception place. And we went down, me and my brother, and I sang and I spoke about it. I sang in the church. There's all these, people there, full, and I managed to do it. And then I come away and I'm on the phone. I come back to the bed and breakfast, and I'm ringing my dad. For the first time in my life, I'm ringing him, and I can't wait to talk to him. I said, how did you get on? I said, oh, Dad, I did it. He said, did they understand it? I said, aye, they did. Did they enjoy it? Because he thinks English people don't understand Scots. So did they enjoy it? Aye, well, aye, Dad, they enjoyed it. Aye, Dad, they did. Oh, that's just great. Well, I shed a tear for Bertie. I said, did you? I said, did you shed a tear for Bertie? So he cried for his brother, probably for the first time ever. So I put the phone down, and my other brother rang him, and I went down and had some dinner. And the phone rang when I went in my pocket, and my other brother, who was with my father, rang and said, Madge's dead. I said, what? I've just spoken to him half an hour ago. He said, he's dead. I know he's dead because I can't feel a pulse. He said he had two sirloin steaks, and because he wanted seconds, and then he went through and he's in his chair and there's no pulse.
What a life lover.
Life lover, yeah. Anyway, that, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I really couldn't believe it because I'd just been speaking to him half an hour ago. But for me, there was a huge completion, and it was through the song. It was a connection and a completion of a whole life. And, after he passed, I sang this at the funeral. And then I went to the funeral home, and there were things that I still had to say to him, and I was so sorry that I hadn't gone home in my 20s and my 30s, and I'd punished him and all of this. I did a whole completion, and I had some wailing, and I did some keening in the funeral. I didn't give a shit who was hearing it. I don't give a shit. And so I just did that. And then everything, all life had its place. And it was through the song. It was through the song. I know it was through the song. Through the music. So I could finish my relationship with my father. He could move on. And for me, it was a huge turning point in my life. So that was his father's lament for Donald Ban Mackenzie. And I'll sing it again. We can sing it again now. Sing it for my father. Sing it for anybody that you need to complete with. And keep it in your pocket, because I've put it up on YouTube so you can have it. And if there's anybody that you need to do some completion with, let it help you. Or even just think about it. Or, find another song that works for you. Because God knows it worked for me, I could hardly believe it. Really could hardly believe it. Yeah, it's beautiful. So I'll send a picture of my dad round, because that's my dad. And look at him. I'm about as determined as that as well. I've got and another thing that I've got, I'm doing this all the time. This is my father. You know how I'm waving my arms around? Any renditions that he used to give, he'd wave his arms about. That's what he'd do. And I'll look at myself like, oh my God, Madge, you're doing exactly what your father does. Exactly what your father does. So that's the story of my father. And we'll sing the song again. The pibroch, the pipes. I'm going to explain the pipes to you, because this is another chapter in my life. I'm going to go really deep into the sounds of the uncried tears. When I read that poem to you from that lovely woman Brenda about picking the scab, that's the uncried tears. And these are a container, and there's always in the pipe, in the pibroch, there's always a note. Right up there. Sound. And I tried to understand this. And there are 9 notes in the pipe chanter, and somebody whose name is Tommy Pearson at the College of Piping, probably in the last century, talks about the notes. There's the devil's note. There's the piper's note. There's the challenge note. There's the musical note. There's the angry note. There's the echoing note. There's the love note. And there's the lament note. And the lament note is the note that cracks your guts. Da da dee da dee da dee da dee da 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 dee da da dee da da dee. That's the kind of, I'm not doing it as I would normally do it, but that's these high gut-wrenching notes. And that would be the lament note.
Howls, like a howl.
Like a howling sound, yeah. And it holds howls. And it gives us permission to howl. So I'll sing this one again. And the chorus will go, tune up the pipes, they weep free, and play the pibroch wild and free. ben wefus crags, ne meer you'll see. The land o' liu is waiting thee. That's the chorus. I'll take it up a wee bit, maybe. The alwife's greeting by your bed, Cannel dims abeen your head. The banshee wails, your time is near. Nay, o'er long you'll linger here. Tune up the pipes, they weep for ye, and play the pibroch wild and free. Ben wefus crags, nae meer you'll see. The land o' liu is waiting thee. It's nae lang syne ye were on my knee. The chanter horn a carved for ye. The cantrach tunes a sang to thee. Deep in my heart you'll bide with me. Tune up the pipes, they weep for thee, and play the pibroch wild and free. Ben wefus crags, nae meer you'll see. The land o' liu is waiting thee. The blossoms gain from off the gin, and in the strath the barley's ding. The corrie shellachs gargling clear, and the winter's chill will soon be here. Tune up the pipes, they weep for ye, and play the pibroch wild and free. Ben wefus crags, nae meer you'll see. The land o' liu is waiting thee. Well done. Oh, Dad. Yes, yes, yes. Before we move on to looking at the other part of the other song, I thought I'd just often in the Keening tradition, certainly in Ireland, I don't know so much here, but in Ireland, there would always be humour. Now, remember when we did McGinty's pig, we always thought, well, you know what, there's always McGinty's pig. You know, if all that, you know, because you just have to keep things light. And you remember the man who carved this talisman stick. Now he's an elder and he's got Alzheimer's, as I said, but he's a fantastic poet in the Doric. And I thought I would read one of his poems. I promised that I would actually learn the song because there's a tune to this, but I haven't had time to learn the song. But I'm going to tell you one of his poems because it contains such an astute observation of something in the Scots character. And when I saw this, I rolled about laughing because it's a very sad subject, but it's very funny. And it's interesting that in what I've been understanding on Irish Weeks, I've actually been at an Irish Week, but we didn't have this aspect at it. In fact, there's footage of singing this song at an Irish Week on YouTube, because I sang this song at my dear friend in Ireland's wake, about 3 or 4 years ago. But in fact, it was just a month after my father died. I went across to her funeral and sang it there. But this is from this gentleman is Callum's granddad, Vic. Right, okay, thank you. Vic, oh, thank you so much, darling girl. Okay, and it's sung to the tune of Bonnie George Campbell, and he writes, who probably fell at the Battle of something, but I haven't made a photograph of that, in 1594 when the Campbells rashly took on the Gordons. But the tune is Bonnie George Campbell, but it's a modern story. Now, it's all about Aberdeen, because this guy comes from Aberdeen. High on the Langstrath and low on Parkway. So these are big streets. Langstrath's a big street going into Aberdeen. High on the Langstrath and low on Parkway, wee Geordie Campbell drove out one fine day. Little George Campbell drove out one fine day. He was belting along with a gleam in his ee. He was belting along with a sparkle in his eye. On the road to Tillydrone, he ran into a tree. So on the road to Tillydrone, he ran into a tree. He wasn't insured, and nae licence had he. His head was still stooning for last night on the spree. There was ice on the road there, and he didna see. On the road to Tillydrone, he ran into a tree. He wasn't insured, and no licence had he. His head was still spinning from last night on the booze. There was ice on the road there that he didn't see. On the road to Tillydrone, he ran into a tree. The tree wasn't damaged, for it was an oak. But the car was a write-off. And Geordie had croaked. Geordie had breathed his last. When the cops tell his mother, this is where I just can't hardly say it, it's so funny. And the cops tell his mother, she said it could have been war. Geordie was joyriding and it was your car. Oh God, right, so no, you're not supposed to laugh, this is very serious. The tree wasn't damaged, for it was an oak, but the car was a write-off, and Geordie had breathed his last. But when the policeman told his mother, she said it could have been worse. Geordie was joy-riding, and it wasn't our car. It gets better in the last verse. Doon came his bidie in, starting to swear. Down came his living lady. He's got a mistress. Well, we don't really know that, but bidie-ins are usually mistresses. Down came his mistress, and she started to swear. She started to be foul-mouthed. Up spoke his mother, saying, "Never you fear. I ken my rights. Just leave this to me, and we'll claim compensation for the owner of the tree." We'll claim no, I'll tell you, down came his bidie-in, his living lover, starting to be foul-mouthed, and up spoke his mother, saying, "Never you fear, I know my rights. Just leave this to me, and we'll claim compensation from the owner of the tree." Now, you have to think, I mean, this is humour that's kind of, but it's associated with death. But you have to have a kind of a light-hearted touch. I remember completely falling into hysterics when my dear friend Alice's coffin, they put all our precious things. They put all her precious things in the coffin. Bless her. And she would have loved this. And our precious thing, she always took her alarm clock everywhere. Suddenly in the middle. alarm clock goes off and nobody can get their hands in the coffin. They're all panic-stricken to put their hands in the coffin, and there's no undertaker, and the bloody thing's going bananas, and we're all sitting there going, Jesus, we don't want to put our hands in the coffin. It was such good fun. But the whole funeral was it was just great fun. Oh dear, we've not got to laugh. We have got to laugh, really, because it's very serious, but oh gosh. Anyway, so that was my father's passing. So that was one ending chapter. Now, my father passed in 2019. My mother passed in 2000. And that was a very different kind of experience. But it still contains song. I better calm down a bit because I'm still thinking about this woman wanting the compensation for the tree. I just think that's priceless. It's very Aberdeen. Yeah. He's it is Aberdeen. That's real Aberdeen. You have to be an Aberdonian to write something like that because it's so kind of it's irreverent. Yeah. All my family would have loved that. And there's Callum's granddad's got a whole lot more poems, which I'm going to go through. I just haven't had time with all this going on, but I'm going to go through them all because they're just wonderful. Anyway, so we're going to get a bit calmer now because this is very serious. I'm trying to get serious. Yeah, these are really extraordinary experiences, more with song, because my whole life seems to be permeated with song and story. So let's just get a little bit of quiet and then I'll sing another song. My mother would ring me up sometimes when I was working with trauma, and I was all over the world, and she would say to me, I've just got I've just got a bonny tune. I've just got a lovely tune to that awful bonny Violet Jacob poem. Oh, it's a lovely poem. The Licht next to the year. All right, Mum, okay. So I just put the phone to my ear and she'd sing it down the phone because she had written. She couldn't read music like I can't, but she could put it in her head, and she did it all and put it in her head. And she sang me this beautiful tune to this Violet Jacob poem. Now, Violet Jacob was a woman who was an aristocrat, kind of, and she lived in Montrose. And she died in the 1940s, 46. And she lost her only son, Lachlan, in the First World War. And she was an extraordinary poet. She really was. She lived in Montrose. My mother loved her poetry, and I loved it too. And so, you'll know some of her songs, possibly, if some of you... Wild Geese is one of hers. A beautiful song, Wild Geese. Westland Wind is one of hers, which other people have taken and made tunes to. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So my mother had made this tune to the Licht Nachts of the Year, the light nights of the year. And I said, oh, Mum, that's half a bonny. That's real bonny. So I just learnt it. I could learn it from my mother, probably 10 minutes, and I could have it, the tune. And I remember driving in the car and till it went in, and then it's in there, and you never forget it. And I never got a chance to sing it much. After I left the work I was doing with trauma, I did a lot of what's called bearing witness work. So I would go to war zones, and particularly I was in Bosnia. And it's all about the untold story. When there's a war happening, there are unspeakable things happening to very many people. And if you're incarcerated somewhere, which is where we were, I did bearing witness work in Srebrenica and Omorska. Omorska was the concentration camp that was used for the Bosniak Muslims, and they took the intelligentsia there because they wanted to exterminate the race, really. And so in these skeletal forms were seen on news at ITV News, and it was the first kind of real war experience that in the West we'd seen for quite a long time. It was horrific. I went with a group of people to bear witness, and we went to Omaska, and the women, it was a group of about 50, 60 people. And what I learned about this kind of trauma is that when you experience it and you live it, you don't know if you're going to survive it, but you're outraged by it. And what you do in order to survive, you say to yourself something less, I'm going to speak about this. I'm going to tell what happened. This is outrageous. But when you get out to tell your story, nobody wants to hear it because they've all got their own stories and they're as ghastly as yours. So there's no place for the story. So if you can't tell your story, like the lady in the wheelchair, then you can't cry, you can't express it. So if you listen to a story, it might be a horrific story and it might be in another language, but you can hear it. And something changes in the telling of the story, because stories, we're all just a whole conglomeration of stories, really. Our lives we've got story after story. So I went with a group of people, and I was in Bosnia, and I had one of the most extraordinary experiences of my whole life there. We were waiting to go into Omaska. It had been agreed in the date and agreement that it was possible to go in, and it was all set up. And we got to the gate with about 50, 60 people, quite a number of who had been in there and experienced the experience of being in there, and who wanted to say, this is where I was, this is what happened to me. And the place hadn't actually been cleaned up much. So I was just being still with it. And we got to the gate, and somebody came to the gate and said, what do you want to come in here for? It's a brick factory. Which is what had happened in other situations, a complete denial of a human experience. And there was this sharp intake of breath in the crowd of people. And then somebody in Russian shouts, Madge, piesnu, which is sing a song. I'm going, oh my God, what do I sing in this? And I just said, God, you better bring it on, because I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, quite often say that, I'm up for it, but just give me something. And suddenly I got, I'd learnt Bach Gounod's Ave Maria at school. So I start on Bach Gounod's Ave Maria. Open my lungs up and go for it. And I'm singing this, and I can hear my voice going over, and suddenly this group of people, this kind of wall of people, start to come up to me, and they start to touch me, and they start to grab me, like try to get to me, and I don't really know what to do. So I'm standing there thinking, are they trying? Have I been so offensive here that I've sung the wrong song? Because there was no mosques. There was lots of Christian churches sitting there, but the mosque had all been obliterated. So here I was singing Ave Maria, but actually I just kind of descended down into a heap, and about 9 people were just touching me. They were trying to touch the song. It took me ages later to process all of that, because I'd never experienced anything like that my whole life. They were wanting to touch the song. And so we sang it, and the experience ended, and we went in. We got in and we went through what we went through, and we listened to the stories, and we came out. But that experience, it was very hard to process, because it was such a profound experience. And I came back, I got on the plane, and I came home, and I didn't tell my father most of what I was doing, for obvious reasons. And I remember sitting in Heathrow with a young Frenchwoman, and she had just had a phone call. She was in the group of about 9 or 10 of us, and she just had a phone call to say that her mother had been diagnosed with terminal cancer, and this young girl was really in a distressed state. So I sat with her for a bit,
and spoke to her and thought, how awful, you know, to have that experience on top of the last one. And I eventually flew up to Birmingham, got in my car, came home, and my father was on the phone. Madge, your mother's in the hospital. And my mother had been taken into hospital, and it was quite a rapid situation. And she had bile duct cancer. She went into hospital, but all the time she was still writing her poetry. I just dropped everything, came up, and spent the last sort of 8-9 weeks with my mother, which was all she had left. Every day in the hospice or the hospital. And singing. I was singing to her all the time, massaging her feet and singing. And about 2 weeks before she passed, I said, Mum, you know, what do you want for your funeral? Oh, how would you like your funeral? And she said, oh, half a bonny Violet Jacob, poem, the last next of the year. I said, Mum, there's a tune to that. No, darling, there's no tune to that. I said, Mum, there's a tune to that, and you wrote a tune to that. Oh, did I? I says, I've got it in my head. I'll sing it you. I sang her the song. Oh, it's half a bonny, it's half a bonny. I said, Mum, would you like me to sing that at your funeral? Oh, darling, you know, would you not be upset? I said, Mum, I will be upset. Of course I'm going to be upset, but, I think I might do it. I think I could do it. I'll do it for you. So she said, you teach it to Lulu. That's my Auntie Lulu, her sister, who's a great singer. And if you get upset, she'll sing it. I said, oh, right, Mum, that's a great... Mum always had a solution to everything. I went and talked to my Auntie Lulu, but I said, Mum, listen, I'm just not going to be fighting with Dad. So could you... you leave Dad to me. She always said that, you just leave Dad to me. So I left Dad to her. The next day, or 2 days later, I came back, and my mum was still alive, you know, it was that kind of time. And I said, Mum, did you manage to talk to Dad? Aye. Okay. So my mum passed, and we're doing the funeral. I said, Dad, you'll be singing. I am singing, Dad. Is that okay? Oh, aye. So I went to the crematorium, and it was one of these, you know, half an hour in the crematorium kind of things. And I went out. Actually, my brother went and asked Paul Anderson to come and play, because Paul Anderson's a fiddler, local fiddler, but he's a superb, and Paul Anderson's one of the most beautiful fiddlers of this whole area. And so he came and played a fiddle tune, a slow air, beautiful slow air. And I went out and I sang the last next of the year. And I managed to keep my voice. I didn't break. And I managed to keep it. And as I was standing with my father, and you have to stand at the end of a Scots funeral, and all the people in the black suits come and shake your hand and all of that, these men were grabbing me. You know how often Scots men can be very gauche? They're just grabbing me, hugging me, because they don't, it's like this. You know, it's like, thank you for doing that, or something. I was really, it was a kind of surreal experience, because people were, I think maybe they'd never experienced anything like that at a Scots funeral And after it, my father said, the minister was, talking about it, and, it had caused quite a stir because it hadn't ever happened before. The connection to Violet Jacob is a very, very interesting one, because Violet Jacob, I told you last week that there were that people are on Zoom, and some people all over the world are getting interested in this. And there's a very interesting man who I told you was studying Burns, Robert Burns, and all the Burns tunes he knows, and he's a scholar of Scots, everything. So I think I sent him Violet Jacob, and he came back to me and told me about this. This is this is Hector Christie and Chris Edwards. Hector Christie lives in Burton-on-Trent, somewhere down there, and Chris Edwards. And Hector Christie comes from Montrose or St Cyrus, very near, and they have created tunes to other Violet Jacob poems. And so I rang up this guy this week, and I said, I can't believe you've done this. This is just so wonderful. But they haven't got a tune to next of the year. It's beautiful. It's just a lovely way serendipity works. And this is the sleeve. Now, where did I put that? Yeah, this is the sleeve of it. And in it, it says, Violet Jacob was a novelist, short story writer, diarist, botanist, and above all, a poet. Her poetry is often direct, revealing the everyday world in extraordinary detail, whether she's describing a neglected farm, cold har creeping through the street, or the comically baffled fury of a rejected suitor. But there's a more darkly mystical side, though, that glimpses a world beyond the familiar, where ghosts come home at Halloween, or wraiths haunt the sleepless thinker. Ghosts, wraiths are ghosts. Where she combines these worlds, such as in Craigo Woods, she intensifies the effect by using what has later been called echoes of the unspecific. Echoes of the unspecific. We're talking, what does it say here? Echoes of the unspecific, so that certainties remain elusive. Echoes of the unspecific. And this is Echoes of the Unspecific, a technique employed by Bob Dylan, according to writer Michael Gray in Song and Dance Man 3, The Art of Bob Dylan. Now, I talked about Shane McGowan of the Pogues. I keep mentioning him because he's talking about ears. All you do is you just take your hand, you pluck it out of the ear. And if you don't pluck it fast enough, Paul Simon will get it further down the line. So the idea that the intangible, eternal threads, the song streams are always there. And in the Lech next of the year, so I'm going to read you the words of the light nights of the year, which are just beautiful. I mean, I don't know how she did this. And this is a Violet Jacob book. This is my mum's Violet Jacob book. I'll maybe just read it out. I mean, I know the words, but I can maybe just read it out. You've left the sun and the candle light. So I'll do it in Doric. You've left the sun and the candle light and the star light, and the weds baith green and sere. And yet I hear ye singing down the braes in the licht nights of the year. Ye were sae glad, ye were icy like the lave rock was hurt as in the lift. Nae mair for you the young green leaves will dance, no, nor yet the Aldane's drift. What thought had you o' the ill-fower dark o' winter, but the ingle nukes o' hame? Love lit your wye and played about your feet, year in, year out the same. And noo my best, my bonniest, and my dearest, I'll lay me down to sleep, and let the world that has nae sound for me its watch o' silence keep. But whiles and whiles of the candle licht and the star licht, I'll walk in it to hear the lilting voice that's singing down the braes in the licht next of the year. So I'll read that in English. You've left the sun and the candlelight and the starlight, and the woods both green and going brown. And yet I hear you singing down the braes, down the hills, in the light nights of the year. It's getting lighter. I was thinking tonight, you know, it's getting a lot nicer coming back. You were so glad, you were icy like the laverock, the heart, the lark. You were so glad, you were always so like the lark, whose heart is in the high spaces, the lift. No more for you the young green leaves will dance, no, nor yet the old ones drift. What thought had you in the ill-favoured dark of winter, but the ingle nooks of home, but the fireside places of home? The ingle nook, which is the place you sit beside the fire. Love lit your way and played about your feet, year in, year out the same. And knew my best, my bonniest and my dearest, I'll lay my heart to sleep and let the world that and now my best, my prettiest, and my dearest, I'll lay my heart to sleep and let the world that has no sound for me its watch o' silence keep. Do you understand that? Yes? Do you want me to say that in English? And now my best, my prettiest and my dearest, I'll lay my heart to sleep and let the world that has no sound for me its watch of silence keep. But whiles and whiles, but different times, whiles and whiles, in the candlelight and the starlight, I'll waken to hear that lilting voice that's singing down the braes in the light nights of the year. Ooh. So those are the eternal threads. Those are the same threads that we talked about in Africa. Those are the same threads. These are the eternal threads that weave us into connection in the higher realms and right through the earth. And before I go into the higher realms, I'm going to feed you some my granny's fine pieces, because we always have fine pieces. And I thought the best kind of thing, just because we were going into ethereal realms, I thought the best thing would be rock cakes. So that's my granny's rock cakes. I made them myself. And this is gluten-free rock cakes for those who need it. So that's the gluten-frees. So this is Stanley Robertson. I'll read it again because I'm just... Stanley Robertson was a traveller man from Aberdeen, and I started this series with one of his songs, and his aunt Jeannie Robertson was probably one of the finest singers we've ever produced, really. Jeannie, mind on her. Oh God, she was amazing. And what a singer! What a voice! What a voice! Anyway, and what Stanley says is absolutely what we're talking about here. Absolutely what we're talking about here. He says, the oral tradition, you've got everything. You've got a whole ancestry behind you that comes through you. And when you're telling a story or singing a song, you are the vehicle by which a tribe comes through you. And all your ancestors come to help you. My Auntie Jeannie used to say, when you sing a ballad, tak it out bonny. Pitting ballads out here and there, the travellers would have been creating waves in the air. It's recorded in the wa's and the steens and the trees. So when you sing a ballad, breathe it in till it fills every part of your body. And when you become all these characters, it's inside of you. And then you can tak it out bonny. As best as you can. She never said you to be a great singer. She just wants you to feel the spirit and tak it out bonny. And if you look at my father's eyes when he's dancing, he's a bloody good dancer. My father was an excellent dancer because he felt the spirit and took it out bonny with his legs and his queets, as my mother would have called them, his ankles. So now I'll sing you my mum's song. Oh! Don't, because sometimes I... He left the sun and the candle licht and the star licht and the woods both green and sere, and yet I hear he sing on down the braes in the licht nights o' the year. You are so glad you were eyes like the laverock whose heart is in the mist. Nae mair for ye the young green leaves will dance, no, nor yet the old anes drift. Fit thoughts had ye in the elf-hour nights o' winter, but the ingle nukes o' hame. Love lit your eye and played about your feet, ear in, ear out the same. You've left the sun and the candle licht and the star licht, the woods both green and sere, and yet I hear ye sing on down the braes in the licht nights o' the year. And say mine, my bonniest and my dearest, I'll lay me down to sleep, and let the world that has nae soon for me its watch o' silence keep. But whiles and whiles o' the candle licht and the star licht, I'll walk in it to hear yon lilting voice that sing on down the braes in the licht nights o' the year. Yon lilting voice that sing on down the braes in the licht nights o' the year. The licht nights of the year. Mm-hmm. Ooh.
I can see the river and the boat.
Can you?
And the body going somewhere in the light, and lots of flowers and leaves and the
Oh, Sandra.
these pieces of flower like.
Oh. Yeah, it's a beautiful song. It's a really beautiful song. I'm going to record it. I've got no voice left tonight, but in the well, I'll go to the well and I'll record it and I'll put it out. I'm going to put as much as I can out now of the things that I have. So much different, my mother's poems, all the singing through Georgia, all the harmony singing through Georgia, just lots really, and the Keening songs. There are about 20 of them, and they need to go somewhere, just as a collection, so that if people can access them to use to serve people who are needing that kind of container for grief. But before I finish, I'd just like to say to everyone, just thank you for sharing this, because these are deep moments. And if we can always remember these eternal threads exist, they're out there in the ether, and they hold all these processes. And if we can just tap into them, so much is held that is almost unbearable. I'd also like to thank the people who, this has been an amazing experience for me doing all of this, these 6 sessions. It's been extraordinary, and so much has happened as a result of it. And I think it's taken me all my life to decant it in this kind of a way, to weave all the strands together and decant it in this kind of a way. And I'm just really grateful to have shared it with you, because I think if I can just conserve it and have it out there for use by people who can gain something from it, or not just gain something from it, but can be held by it or comforted by it, or it'll be worth doing all of this. And I want to say just a special thank you to people who have supported that process. Ian, thank you for helping me to have the confidence to do it and say, you've got to do this. To people like, I don't know, to the people that have mentored me, like Alan MacDonald. Alan MacDonald is an extraordinary man, a tradition bearer, and this is one of his pipe collections. This is a masterpiece, really a masterpiece. People like, who have helped me to understand the importance of roots and belonging, because roots are integral. If we can't root, we can't find a place. Songs have associations, and that's connection. So we associate with songs. We associate a song with certain things. So if you can think of songs that you associate with a human experience, let that song speak to you. Let it hold you. They're all different songs, or all different tunes. Sometimes I can't hear a certain tune without remembering a person, or connect. It's all about connection, So I'll sing the Pili now, and then maybe we can all make a universal sound. Wouldn't that be good? This is a Scots traditional chant that is thought to be based on the sound of the redshank bird, the redshank. Liminal birds that inhabit earth, sea and sky. And this is a tune. This is something that I've done quite often, well, not quite often, but a number of times now, with people who are in transition, or with people who are holding people in transition. So I would send them a tape, if they're sitting with their father at his bedside, I'd send them a tape of this, and then they would start to learn it, because they've nothing much else to do when they're sitting by a bedside, so they're learning it and singing it. And it's a transition support process. These are to enable the uncried tears, and also the transition of the soul as it moves through its passage. And you can feel the ether in this. We send our eternal thread, our individual eternal thread, out into the heaven-embroidered cloth, as Yeats would have said. Excuse me. In Scots, you'd call this a thrapple. A thrapple in your throat. Shall we do the Om together? And let's just let it swell and move. And shall we do 3? Keep it going a little bit longer. Thank you.
Madge, I would feel remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to say a few words of appreciation, for
Okay.
myself, for I think the room, people here in the cosmos. I've always felt around you, you're a reservoir of beautiful songs of the Scottish tradition, the Scottish nature. You're like a jukebox. You just have to press a button, and then out comes a song for that matches the button. So, thanks so much for organising a 6-week presentation. Would you agree?
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
And can I say thank you, Craig, for putting this out to the world, because there's so much interest in this. It seems it's needed. you know, and I'm so grateful that it can go out. Thank you.
I think I just want to add something which is, totally echoing what Ian said. I feel so appreciative of, there's something about the way you've woven the story over time where it's like, living here and being on this land, but there's been something where you've really welcomed, there's like an access to the culture and the belonging that you speak about.
Yes.
But also, there's something very universal that you hold that allows me to do the equivalent with my own culture in whatever I do have access to.
Yes, yes,
So there's
yes.
been something very, very rich. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh,
so
thank
much.
you. Thank you.
May you somehow continue to help us keep this alive. There's the
It's
online, but
yeah. I think we might do more.
Yeah.
I don't know what form it would take, but we might do more. Yeah.
Madge, I'm so grateful that you said yes.
Oh.
I was actually following Madge like a crazy woman after some summer concert, and I was like, Madge, I know you know some songs. I always wanted to visit Scotland. Let's do something together. Let's sing something together. And I saw people from this community looking like this at me, but Madge totally understood my craziness. And I followed her to the car, and then she sent me the one of the songs, I think the Gaelic one, about the
Horahan.
yes. Thank you so much. And you know why you are genius? Because you feel something what is in the air, and you play it out now something what is very, very needed. Like, for example, there are a lot of elderly people who lose their friends now, who lose their parents, and the whole thing what is going on with the foundation and everything. And there are certain emotions which we don't talk about them.
Yeah.
And it's so good when we do not talk about them, but we find a way to talk about them. And you just did it.
Really? Okay.
And I'm
Goodness.
so grateful.
Oh, thank you, Sandra. Well, thank you for everything that you've done to make this happen. Yeah, we'll try and find another form for this. There might be other forms for it, and deeper explorations into keening, which is where I'm going myself. My journey myself is into that, and I'm going to make a whole resource for that human experience of deep, visceral distress, because we don't have easy containers for that, and the music does it. And traditional music does it. We just have to find the kind note, Yeah.
I've experienced that from you, Madge.
Oh.
On your knees.
Yeah, and the
on
keening.
a homemade on a.
Yeah, on this, yeah.
You made. Oh, was this one?
Yeah, I made one of it. This is a.
Churches.
Yeah.
This is felt, isn't it?
Yeah. It's made from the wool, from the fluff from underneath the looms of the Harris tweed in the Hebrides. It's the discarded fluff. So I make them into mats.
It's like a prayer mat.
It is a prayer mat, and if I was going to keen, I would do it on there. I wouldn't do it on the ground. I'd do it on that. Because it's out of reverence, and because that's got the colours of the landscape in it.
Well, I hope we'll have the occasion to hear you.
Okay, well, it's heavy duty, but we can do it. I can, because I have I've learned quite a lot of these ancient chants and words to these tunes that are so beautiful, but only are tunes. And they need words, because words, sound, and light are the formative forces of the universe. So if you can combine word and sound, you can have a deeper resonance, really. And you can enlighten. And so that's been my journey, and I see it more and more now as I move on through I'm going to do more of this. There's going to be lots more songs, stories on this when we build this resource online. Because that's the way now to do it online, isn't it? It's the way to do it. YouTube, people can just watch it. So tell people tell people about it and just press the button and subscribe, and then you can have access to all of this. And I'd like to develop ways of bringing this to younger people, the next generation or the next generation down from that even. That's something I'm going to be working on.
Now, just something really special about being in this room, this kind of coziness, and you in a comfy chair, like you're an elder, and we're all kind of like your grandchildren.
Oh, how lovely that. Well, this is
really special. I mean, you could be in, say, a hall.
Yeah, but no.
But it wouldn't be the same.
It wouldn't be the same, no. It needs to be a small contained place. It's like when we started at my granny's fireside tucking up fine pieces. That's how she would do things. She just and we haven't got a fire, unfortunately, but we've got that. It's a bit but thank you so much, and I'm just so grateful that you came. I had no idea who was going to be popping up here. But let's think about another form of doing this. I could do it in different ways, so I'm just going to have to think about a different form of doing it.
I like Romany's point though. I've like I said before we started, I've tried to watch them online, and I got halfway through the Doric one because, as you know, my dad's from that neck of the woods.
Yeah.
And I found it such a different experience than being here.
Yeah.
It feels like stories and songs like you're telling them, and the way you're telling them. I mean, it's so much better. I mean, I know not everybody who wants access to it can have this luxury that we've got here.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic that they're online.
Yeah.
But it's just the more you can do it in these sort of live situations.
Yeah.
Where we can feel the vibrations.
Yeah.
And with the George, when we talk about the vibrations, it's such a different experience.
And sharing, yeah. Usually I love to put more songs that you can actually sing in, but tonight we haven't done that quite so much. But it doesn't really, we did what we did. And the process was, yeah.
What really touched me, Madge, is particularly the personalising of all the material that you brought.
Yeah.
Because each song would stand on its own as the song with its own story.
Yeah.
And you've woven the songs into your story and your story into the song.
That's right.
And so you crafted the whole thing.
Yeah.
Speaking as a storyteller,
Yeah.
and see what you're doing and feel the deeply personal investment that you've made into each word that's come from your mouth.
Yeah.
Because you've opened wide into the depths of your own life experiences.
Yeah.
And I feel I've had a very precious and very fragile, vulnerable seeing into your story. And when we share like this, it connects hearts and ways.
Of course.
Really, it's almost.
Yeah, and it's a salve in itself, really, isn't it?
So your stories, even apart from the songs, are such a gift to us. And
Thank you.
Gift, so thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, man, I'm sorry to but it just occurs to me that you inspire us to look into our lives and our history and our stories and our songs and the meaningfulness.
Yes.
It's so big.
It's big.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I was able to do that. Thank you.